welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and of course, I'm joined as always with my co-host Darian Smith. And Darian, it feels like it's been a while since we recorded, man.
Yeah, we didn't do that instant reaction pod. We got so used to doing that, so it just feels a little off. But I'm glad that it
Me
happened this
too.
way.
Me too.
So,
So definitely glad we didn't do a reaction. But before we get started and recap that WKU game, just as a reminder, guys, if you were listening, please hit that subscribe button wherever you were listening to us on now, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Podbean. Go ahead and subscribe to the Blazer Victory Podcast. And also, hey, if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating if you like us. That helps us out a lot. So if you haven't done so already, definitely give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast or Spotify or both. And as a friendly reminder, we also do have Blazer Victory Podcast merchandise that you can purchase to help support us at www.storefrontier.com/blazerpod. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about, Darian, what happened this past Friday night. So UAB took the L 20-17 in Bowling Green against a good, I think a good Western Kentucky. Hey, I mean, that's a good ball team. You know, Tyson Helton does a great job there. Took them to the championship last year. And I think they have another good team this year. Now, if you're a Western Kentucky fan, you might want to stop listening because we are about to just talk about UAB. Darian, what in the world, man? You know, we come into this saying, hey, we need Dylan to have a good game. Dylan gets a concussion first quarter of the game. We say, do not turn the ball over on the road. You go back and look at the Rice game. You look at the Liberty game. And what did UAB do in both of those road games? They turned the ball over multiple times in penalties, right? Debo, hell of a game, man. Oh, I'm sorry. A heck of a game, Debo. You know, 24 carries, 197 yards. But you fumble it 2 times, and then you're honestly the cause of the fumble with Dylan Hopkins, you know, getting stripped by that big guy up front from Western Kentucky. Like, you got to block him better, man. I know he's a bigger boy, but you got to go low or something to help your quarterback out, man. And I get Debo is the best. I feel we can say this, Darren. He is the best running back UAB has ever had. I think we can say that now. But you are not going to get to that next level in the NFL if you're turning the ball over left and right. Like, I just don't understand. Like, he'll get a good 20-yard gain, and he'll be just one arm on the ball with multiple black jerseys around him. Like, when you see that, you've got to tuck that thing tight, high and tight with both hands. And for some reason, he's just not doing that on the road. And this is the cause to another loss on the road for UAB, a very frustrating loss against a good WKU team. I don't want to, leave that out that, hey, UAB just blew this game because WKU is a good team. All the kudos in the world to them. But that defense for UAB fought their hearts out, man. Like, you hold a WKU team that was getting like 400 yards through the air, that you hold them well under that. And you just have an offense that just continues to be inept on the road and just turn the ball over left and right. And I just do not understand it.
Right. Yeah, I did have, like, later for our general thoughts, I did have like a little Debo thought section, but I think this is a good time to get to it, Like, what I want Debo to understand is like, you have the highest ceiling out of any UAB running back I have seen or played with. You got the size, you have it all. Like, you run with this ferocity. You are hard to take down. You are shifty, and you have enough speed to break away. One thing that it has to click with him. Hopefully this is the moment for him. I think now what I want him to understand is the fans. Our frustration comes from last year. Last year this is how it started. It was okay. Yeah, he'll put the ball on the ground, but he's great, and the fans are behind him 200, 300, 400%, like whatever, how we can go. But it's okay for people to have valid criticisms of you. That doesn't mean support. So with that being said, he has to care about the little things. Because when you get to that next level, or even at this level now, you go to the Power Five. I mean, there's a lot of good running backs. Running backs you can find in a lot of places. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
You can find running backs everywhere. In order to stand out, you have to. He has that ceiling, that talent to stand out. But those little things, when I watch Skull play, we brag about how Skull was laying people down on pass protection, and Skull is like half this man's size. He's half people's size, but he is laying 240-pound linebackers down, all heart and soul. I don't think I've seen Skull miss one block. And he's fumbled one time. And to kind of have this like reoccurring theme, it's frustrating because we see somebody with so much talent and that we want to see do great. We want to see this man go. I want to see this man go to the NFL and change the trajectory for his family's life for generations to come. Like generational. I want to draft him round 1 on my fantasy football. I want him to be the greatest running back ever, and just secure all the wealth he can. But young man, it's not going to be possible if you don't care about pass blocking. If you don't care enough. And I'm not saying that he doesn't care enough, but you have to be what's the word I'm looking for? You have to really go after, you have to really think about, for some reason the word is escaping me, but you have to think about this. You have to be intentional. That's what I'm looking.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional in thinking like, I've had these fumbling problems. I'm coming up on contact. Let me get this ball high and tight. I see him and I go back and I look at it. He's running with so much ferocity. He want to break every tackle. I get it. Right. But there's a certain way that you have to do it. And you have to learn that now. The time is now. Tuck that thing in. Put 2 hands on the ball. Whatever you got to do. It's okay. It's okay. I know you probably broke 1 or 2 by being the way you are. But, going through life and, progressing as a player, you change and you get better. And this is how you get better. I want to see him lay down people on pass blocking. I want to see him run blocking for Dylan and laying people out. I want to see him tuck that ball. You remember when NFL, you remember when Tiki Barber used to have a really bad problem? That's exactly what this reminds me of. Tiki Barber would fumble. And it was a year that it was really bad for him. And we talking about an NFL star. Mm-hmm. And he came back the next year and he looked totally different. That ball was high and tight no matter what he did. And guess what? He still broke big plays. And I don't even know if he fumbled at all that season. And so what I would really like to see from Debo is him just fixing that up as we go by. I want to see him be very intentional about that. I don't care if it costs him, 2 or 3 yards in there. I don't care. I just want to see him intentionally. You can tell when he's tucking that ball. Because there was a couple times when Debo broke, I'm like, man, put the ball up. You can tell, can't you see when he run, he's running, the ball is going. He's so into trying to just score. Yep. I'm like, dude, somebody's coming from when he broke that last fumble, I saw that dude coming. I'm saying, oh my God, I think this dude's finna fumble. He fumbles.
And he fumbled
that's something and number 12 was intentionally ripping at the ball. That's how they're gonna play Debo from now on. I'm gonna rip at the ball. So I know that was kind of long soliloquy. I know I got another one in me about the program, but I really felt that I really wanted to just get that across. For the fans, for Debo. We have valid criticisms, but we love Debo. This is the best running back we've ever. This is the most talented running back.
Right.
But he does have the little things he has to show up. I would like to see him finish the year out strong, and he probably would have to come back another year to prove to scouts like I can do it for a whole season. At this point, because I thought it was just a lot this year, but it is some little things he has to get ironed out. Well, they won't draft you. They don't. They don't want that in the NFL. So no matter how much talent you have, so. I want to see Debo just switch that all around so he can make generational change for his family, man. And I think he'll do it.
Yeah, definitely agree. Well, just some other bright spots. How about Fred Ferrier getting his first touchdown reception as a Blazer, a 14-yard catch from Jacob Zeno?
Yeah, man. As I said, that's our. I said, look at our son. Look at that. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. We've always taken the liking to him because I don't know. You can see the talent. I think he has the strongest hands on the team.
Yeah, he's
Like,
gonna be good, man.
Man, he's gonna be awesome. I just really like the guy, his talent. So just shout out to him. And then I know you mentioned Dylan earlier in the game. We were saying one of the keys was Dylan. We needed to play well, and Dylan was playing well, man.
He was
playing well. If Dylan doesn't go down that game,
yeah,
heartbreak.
I know, and I'm sad too. I mean, I know Coach Vincent in his press conference Monday said that they're taking him day to day. I don't see him playing, and this is no inside info. This is just I just don't see, or I don't see him starting this Saturday against FAU. I think they'll give Zeno all the reps with the ones this week in practice and just get him ready. Unless, hey, I mean, a miracle, maybe Dylan gets cleared. But with what happened recently, we know Tua with the Dolphins, like you just can't rush somebody back after a concussion. Like you honestly have to give them at least 2 weeks to, or at least a full week or something like that to kind of fully get together.
Yeah, like in today's climate with everything that's been happening with concussions, like it's kind of tough. And just to see him, when he got up, you can tell he was a little woozy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it didn't look good.
Yeah, it didn't look good. So, man, that was the thing I was most excited about this second half of the season, like the maturation, the coming into of Dylan. He's been right on the precipice, like you can tell. And I thought this game was going to be his coming out party, and it started that way. He made the flip, just a little drag across the middle and flip, just house calling that thing.
Yeah, shout out to Flip, man. What about that speed, man? Taking around the corner and just taking it to the house. 59 yards.
Just straight foot racing and just blazing, just going through there and just taking it all the way to the house. And I just knew it was going to be a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And then even then seeing Dylan's escapability, his decision making had me so excited. He wasn't forcing anything. He was tucking it down, running it. He just seemed so sure of himself and his abilities. I'm like, yep, this one we're gonna kill him because Dylan is. I can tell he's going through his progressions and stuff, and it just felt like he was turning that corner, and then it was like, oh no, you know what? You guys had problems on the road. How about we throw this curveball at you? And Dylan. I'm just like, really, come on, man.
Of course it happens. But definitely, hey, we definitely wish Dylan a speedy recovery, and also with Mac McWilliams, I know he had to get helped off the field in the second half. I definitely hope he gets better as well. I'm trying to remember Zeno. So, what did his stats end up being?
Let's talk about it.
3 of 10 for 33 yards, 1 touchdown, as we mentioned, that 14-yarder to Fred Ferrier, and such a bad interception. Golly, that was so bad, dude. Like, I don't. If you were okay, never mind. I need to watch it because it's not on Zeno. Like, he baited Zeno into throwing that. Like, he baited him into it.
Yes, but it's so frustrating because that entire half, like, the passing game was non-existent. So the frustration for the fans was already there. Like, we was already frustrated. Like, man, we can't throw anything right now. And I know I was really, really frustrated when we were backed up on our side of the field, and it was a third down play.
You call timeout?
You got that one. But I don't know if it was the same drive. But Zeno took the ball. I think it was like 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 8 or something like that. Dexter Boykin was on the right side, and he just run a little hook that is completely covered the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there looking like, I know this dude isn't finna throw the ball. Number 3, the linebacker, I think his name was Evans, was just sitting right there.
Yep.
And it's like, why are you in Zeno, stared at one receiver? I'm like, dude, It just like, why are you forcing it? And I guess Boykin tried to relocate a little bit, but he was totally covered, like, and he just tried to fit it in there. I'm just like, oh man, we in trouble.
Yeah.
Because I don't, and this is why I'm disappointed, because he's been in the bright lights before.
Yeah.
You know, he's been there. He's done it. He's made plays in the bright lights.
Yeah,
This
Big
is
12 championship game with Baylor. Yeah, he's been there.
He's been there, and I got so frustrated, man. I had to mute the color commentator. Dude was horrible.
Oh, that was the worst broadcast I've ever seen. Like that color guy, the analyst, he was mixing up teams, mixing up stats, and I was like, this is just awful. And I swear he was like the same one saying, "Oh, I bet Rudolph stepped out of bounds on that touchdown." I'm like,
yeah, like
come on,
shut
dude.
up.
Like,
what you talking about?
Yeah, he was awful. And I knew that though, because shout out to Adrian and Jared at the Alamo Dome Audible, like they had played FIU the previous Friday night on CBS Sports Network, and they were talking about on their podcast how bad it was. So if all these folks are seeing how bad it is, so hopefully we don't have to worry about him coming back next year.
Man, please, like come on, man, like people need to hit certain benchmarks for their jobs.
Yeah.
But anyway, but like this dude, he kept on talking about how explosive WKU's offense were. Man, they weren't. Like, stop. Hey, they aren't even completing passes because you talk about the game.
Right.
They could have like a 3-yard run. He was like, oh, they're so explosive. You know, I'm like, yeah, and you can tell he had certain talking points that he was going off of.
Yeah.
I'm just like, let it go, brother. Like, you talking about the same old things over and over. It was just horrible. But yeah, just knowing that, I know he had to catch those bullets real quick. But
yeah, but Zeno, like, so do you think, Darian, like, say he's going to have to be the starter in Boca this Saturday, if you give him a full week's worth repping with the ones, do you think he can be better than what he showed last Friday night? Because I guess it is kind of different, you know, even though, you know, Coach Vincent has put him in before, but when he's kind of put him in the game, like, it's either the game's well out of reach, or when he puts him in, it's just straight up handing off to Debo or Skull. So, like, I don't know.
He's put him in, and a lot of times we scored, and he's been a great hander offer of the ball.
Right.
You know, so he hasn't been asked to read any defense in any crucial moment during the season.
So do you think maybe, like, getting a full week's worth with the ones, like, do you think that can help? And maybe that's something that the staff can work with him on making reads, or is it even sufficient at all to say that you can get that in a week? Like, do you think we're going to get the same outcome with him?
No, it'll definitely help, because like I said, this is somebody that's been there, and another thing about the color commentator, he kept calling them the young guy. I'm like, this dude isn't young. Stop.
Right.
What are you talking about? Redshirt junior, man. Mm-hmm. But he's not young. He's not a deer in the headlights or anything like that. And he's been successful in these moments before. But sometimes it's kind of like a jumper, you know, like if you got a jumper and you can lose your jumper if you don't practice enough, and you got to get in rhythm.
Just ask Ben Simmons, right?
Huh?
I said, just ask Ben Simmons.
Well, you know, hey, that's a good one. But so yeah, you can lose that jumper, but you know, just going back with Zeno, I just think it's been a while since he's actually been in, you know, real live game action to where it mattered. And you know, just seeing the film, I think film is like the most important thing. So practice is one thing when you really get to practice, but when you really get to put that performance on the film, and you can see like, oh, because it takes all the excuses out, you know. True. It's like, all right, yeah, this is you on the field. This is what you did. This is how you stared down Dexter Boykin the whole time, and you had no pressure on you at all. You could have ran. You could have went through your progressions. You tried to force a ball. You look scared on that interception. You know, he didn't. I don't know. We're armchair coaching here, so we don't know what the reads are. But if it's that easy to bait you, you threw that so confidently, and that interception looked so easy, you know. And you know, I saw somebody made the comment, it was like, man, I felt so good when he threw it because he looked like he ripped it. Like, yeah, I know this is a touchdown, but it looked like you handed the ball off right to him, and I'm just
Gave it to him. Yeah.
So I think this week, seeing that and him feeling the pressure, feeling the weight, feeling all of that, and now having a chance to review the film and practice, I think he's gonna look so much better than what he did.
I think so too. Yeah, and like you just said, you've got to thank Coach Henshaw and Coach Vincent, and everybody's going to be in there looking at the film from Friday night. I'm sure they've already done this, but just kind of reassuring them and like, hey Zeno, this is what you did wrong. You shouldn't have done this, and I think he'll be better if he does end up starting this Saturday night in Boca. Defensively wise, I mean, UAB defense, kudos to you again. I mean, you shut down a very prolific offense with WKU, hold them to 20 points. Reed, their star quarterback, was only 14 to 23 for 128 yards. Like, I mean, nothing, man, nothing.
And I kind of was having this exchange with Steve Irvine, and I meant to add him back on Twitter, because I said, another wasted defensive, dominating game. But he was like, well, I wouldn't call it dominating because they had 220 yards rushing. Well,
I mean, if you got a three-man front,
go ahead. You take this. You go first.
Well, I was gonna say, when you play in that base three-man front, like, look, of course teams are gonna be able to run on you. We saw Georgia Southern, who ain't had a run game all year, ran on us. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm sorry. You go ahead though, but I was just gonna say that real quick.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm going. That's what I was saying. Preach, brother. Preach, because it's certain things that you want to give a team. Right. And certain, what you taking away. So we were giving that to them, but they weren't scoring. Mm-hmm. They were scoring field goals. A lot of the touchdowns came by way of turnover. Right. They had a short field. So, and then a lot of the rushing yards came at the end of the game when we was on the field for a long time. If we don't have those turnovers in those certain positions, I'm not sure that they get 14 points, No,
and hey, I think Will Bowler had that pick, by the way. Like, yeah, you call it on the field an interception, and you go back and review and say 100% without a doubt that ball was on the ground and he didn't have control. Like, what in the world? Every camera angle I saw, at least on the broadcast, it looked like, yeah, the ball might have barely hit the turf, but he still had control of it, like, on the way. So I don't know how they reversed that call. That was my only grievance with the officiating. And I even had a couple WKU fans. One in particular, Steven, he texted me and was like, yeah, that should have been an interception. I don't know how they overruled that. Like, and he was at the game. Like,
it was clear. It's like
WKU
they called it an interception on the field,
and they scored a touchdown right after that. So that's 7 of their points right there.
Yeah, so it's like, defense gets short end of the stick, but we say this every week, week in, week out. This team has done defensively what they were supposed to do. We put them in adverse positions like every game. Right. The only game that we didn't put them in like adverse positions was really Middle Tennessee, and you saw like Middle Tennessee couldn't do anything because they actually had to go the whole field. We wasn't giving them short fields, and our defense, man, it's like, man, we treat them right, they can just shine. If they can treat them right, but another masterful performance, another performance with Fish McWilliams is doing fish things, and Noah Wilder is all over the field, and that defensive back, like our defensive backs, man, they was just swarming to the ball. And I'm not finna say nothing negative about this defense. Like, oh man, we couldn't. Man, how many times we gonna put them in bad positions to where we gonna say, oh, defense didn't do. Well, guess what? If we shooting free throws and I'm shooting 20 and you shooting 5, and you make 3 of 5 and I make 7 of 20. Yes, I made more free throws than you, but like, how many opportunities did I get? Exactly. So that's just how I feel about it. And hats off to them. Hats off to David Reeves again.
Yep. All right, I think again, hey, UAB turned the ball over 4 times and lost on the road. So it's been every time UAB's played on the road, all 3 times, multiple turnovers, just offense shooting itself in the foot. We saw the same thing in Bowling Green last Friday night. So UAB loses 20-17, and we will kind of put this game to bed.
Oh,
you got one more thing?
The right side of the line.
Oh yeah, you got to talk about McGee. Yeah, talk about it.
Like, hey, here we are again, and I'm, it's getting. I don't like to be critical. I mean, these are still kids, like, so I don't like to be critical, especially on our team.
They're not looking good.
Man, like it. I'm concerned because I always thought that Sidney Wills was more of a guard. I remember going back to the the beginning of the year. He's good on when we play action and it's 2nd and 7 but when the pass is obvious, like it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12 or something, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared. They because he's a big guy. He seems more of a guard. He seems like he'll be perfect on the inside. But I understand he has experience. He's one of our leaders. So I get it. But and maybe there is something intangibly having him there in that position that he brings to the table. I just wish we can kick him in the guard, because I feel like McGee also kind of struggles, especially when it comes to penalties. So I wouldn't mind giving him another year to grow and maybe bumping Sidney down in the guard. And we got like Trey Bodowski, who has really good feet at tackle. And I remember, Quez Yates, like looking at his film, great feet, man. I think, but then again, the coaches are the ones that are in there in the facility with these players every single day. So they know what's best, but it gets frustrating from the outside, especially being an offensive lineman, knowing that. But then also, hopefully we just put him in better positions and we get running backs to chip and help in those certain predicaments, but I send that challenge out again, man. I want to see that right side of the line. I want to see that perk up, man. I don't want us worried because I find myself not worried about that left side at all.
Me either.
No pressure like Kadeem and Trey Hearn and boys.
Yeah, they got it locked down over there.
Locked down, but it's been a lot of times, far too often this season, we've seen the bulk of the pressure come from the right side of the line. So, hopefully that's something we can get ironed out.
Definitely. Well, all right. Well, guys, right now what we will talk about is just kind of general thoughts on the UAB football program. We're 4-3 this year, 2-2 in Conference USA. Darian, I'll let you start because I know, we talked about it before the show, how we almost wanted to do this Sunday afternoon, but we decided, hey, we'll just lump this in with the FAU preview. But I'll let you start, and we can just have a general conversation about our feelings towards the program so far.
Yeah, and we might get a little long-winded, but I kind of had to think about everything. I'm glad we didn't have the instant reaction pod.
Yeah.
So they give me some time to really just really think, So I just kind of thought about, when I was here as a player, I was here under Coach Neil Callaway with a lot of the coaches that, we see now. We still have relationships with the Hiltons. I just talked to Kim Hilton, who's the father of Tyson Hilton. I talked to him after the Georgia Southern game. So, and I know I can pick up the phone. I can call Neil Callaway, all these guys. It's kind of resemblance of kind of what UAB is. It's kind of family. So, Coach Summers was on that squad, defensive coordinator for Western Kentucky.
Right.
You got Zach Langford, I believe tight ends coach for Western Kentucky. You have Rick Mallory, offensive line coach at Middle Tennessee. You have Will Friend, offensive line coach at Auburn. It's so many connections. I played with Pat Bastion, coaches at the Jets now. Matt McCants was in the NFL. He coaches with UAB. It's so, and I can keep going, but it's so many connections and family-like connections that came from that team, and I take a lot of pride in that because I was the team captain and offensive MVP as center of the team. I was kind of like one of the spokesmen for the team. So I kind of thought about that and kind of thought about like family and what kind of made us feel during those years. And I honestly think that, Coach Callaway he wasn't able to get everybody to buy in. I love Coach Callaway. Like, I can call him to this day. He was a good man. However people feel about him as a coach. But he ultimately wasn't able to get everybody. He wasn't able to touch and motivate everybody. It was some guys on that team that just didn't care. And I'm here to tell you that. Like, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people from my team could tell you that. Some dudes would be like, "Oh, we had the game up. We lost by 30. I don't know. It's time to go out and party, whatever, and smoke." Yeah. Like, that's just how it was. So when I think about Coach Vincent and I think about that family, all of that was just proper context. It was pretext, I guess, to say when I think about Coach Vincent, he is literally able to touch all of these guys.
Yeah.
That's a special gift.
It is.
I want people to know that, like, every coach doesn't have that. I think we kind of assume these coaches have that. But if you go look out and you see some of these programs, they hire the hottest name coaches. These coaches aren't able to touch players. Like, when we hired Coach McGee here, Coach McGee was the worst at that.
Yeah. You've got plenty of guys that could give two, like, kind of craps, because honestly, a lot of them come in and they're trying to use, like a small or a G5 school as a stepping stone. Like, I don't really want to relate with you guys. I'm just trying to get a good year and bounce off and go on to my next destination. Like, sometimes they really just don't care.
Right. And Coach Vincent is the total opposite of that. This is what makes everything so hard with him. He is such a great motivator and he touches kids. That is a skill. I want people to value that as a skill for a coach, to be able to reach these players and you make these players feel that you care, and he truly does.
Yeah, he does.
I've talked to his wife. They truly care. Like, it's really something special, not just about football and reaching kids, but this city and everything. It is really that family feel. Like, that's a skill that you really can't. It's hard to measure, It's not.
And real quick, Darren, like, you've got, Holly, like, at the coaches show on Monday night at Buffalo Wild Wings, telling some UAB fans that have never been to the UAB practice facility that, hey, they can come and look and check out the facility, because they care so much about wanting to be engaging, and you can really see how much they care about this UAB football program. And I mean, hey, and Steve and I was there when she lived up to her, promises. There was a couple of people from the coaches show that came out, and Holly opened the door and they went in there and checked out the practice facility and got to walk around. Like, you really do see how much Bryant Vincent cares about this football. Like, he almost bleeds it. And that's why, like, losses like this past Friday night, just like, you're just gutted, because, like, you can tell, like, oh man, like, this, it just sucks. Yeah,
it's so tough you have that coach as a player. No matter what, it's a special thing. You just want to win for him, and right. I know, just seeing some of those players' faces afterwards and they feel down, dejected, I know half of the reason is really because they really want to win for Coach Vincent, man. Because I think about that family fabric, man. I know players. I talk to some of the players that I play with. I talk to some of their family members more than them now. Like, I've had players, moms and dads, like, they sent me stuff when I've had kids. Like, this is special here. I want people to understand that. Like, it's, you grow up, and a lot of these guys still stay in the same area. A lot of these guys, my kids are best friends with, so it's something different than, going to a Alabama game, and it's like, it's crowded, it's packed, you got celebrities, but how connected are these people? We right. know each other when we go. It's we feel like we're heard, and it's I don't know, it just feel like family. So, and I feel like they captured that so well, right? And so, and even looking at some of the numbers, DB was offensive coordinator. It's kind of weird to think about, but he was the offensive coordinator for some of our best offensive seasons here.
He was, yeah.
Weirdly
Hmm.
enough, because it feels like, coming from the fans, and coming from me myself, it feel like we've been kind of frustrated with the offense for a while. I don't know if is it the offense or is it the conservatism of the offense, but it's been going on for a while. Like it's kind of building up. Like, hey man, we're so stale. We're predictable.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that the main problem? And so we feel really predictable, and then sometimes I just feel like we just lean on the defense too much. And it's kind of like, hey man, we've been asking, we've been kind of like wanting something to shift in that. And is that, John, you can tell me, like, is that wrong and want to ask that? Because sometimes you can look at some of these numbers and see some of the offense done did this and that in these years that Brian Benson was the offensive coordinator. But it just feels like half the time that something is off. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. And I mean, honestly, I wish Vincent would let Henshaw call some plays. At least try it for one game. Just kind of hand it over and just say, okay, all right, you call the plays, and I'm just gonna focus on being a head coach and just, you know, oversee everything. And now, Bill did that, but hey, every now and then Bill would step in and be like, no, you could overrule your coordinator every now and then and be like, no, I want to be conservative or I want to do this, but I think it would benefit him to kind of just hand off play calling. At this point, I mean, what's to lose? I mean, just let Henshaw call a game and see, go forward with it. Like, and you take some of the pressure off of yourself by doing that. Hey, I get it. You were the offensive coordinator. This is your offense, but you hired Henshaw to be the offensive coordinator. So let him, you know, try to call some plays. Just do something and take the pressure off of yourself.
Right. I think that's one of the biggest things. Is like, so I thought about, like, what are really the problems? What are we frustrated with? I think it's the offense or the offensive play calling, the conservatism, whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah.
I think it's like in those games that matter the most, seem like turnovers and penalties seem to be embedded into our culture.
Yeah.
I, it's killing me, man.
Yeah, the turnovers I do not understand. Like, it's road games turnovers, and I don't understand it. And you saw his press conference Monday, and I mean, even Coach Vincent was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, they practice it, and just something happens when they go away from Protective Stadium. They just turn into a turnover machine, just giving the ball over left and right. And it's honestly frustrating too because the offense moves the ball at points, but it's just when they start moving the ball, they just do something stupid and end up just turning the ball and basically gift wrapping it for the other team. And then in doing that, you put your defense that has been doing such a great job all year in backed up bad situations where, I mean, you're going to give up points in situations like that. So,
All right, and sometimes I just feel like like we're s- we're so late to counter,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that's probably the main frustration. It's kind of like we wait a little too late, or we come out in the second half. It's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Because we put up a lot of numbers in the first half, and it looks shiny. Thank
Hmm.
Liberty, thank Right.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, think about this game. Think Western Kentucky all on the road. The same thing. We put up a lot of numbers in the first half, so at the end of the game, it's so shiny. Like, oh, we had 197 yards rushing, whatever it is. But we
Hmm.
probably had 130 of that in the first half because Debo probably ripped off some big runs, but it seems like we don't have a counter, or we don't predict, like, hey, they're gonna stop this now. That's just what it feels like. It's like it's always a sense of nervousness for that third quarter. I don't want to feel like that about my team.
Me either. And you even look back to some of the home games. Like you look at the Georgia Southern game when we jump up on Georgia Southern with 21-7, and then it's just coasting the rest of the game. Like what happened? Like
Yeah.
you're
So do we get too conservative, or?
I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Like, are we really trying to grind down the lead with 15 minutes? We starting the third quarter. Are we trying to grind it out already?
But I don't know. Like the counterpoint to that though, Darren, is like you say, or we say that we're being conservative, and here we are not being conservative, turning the ball over left and right. Like I don't. No, I will give them credit. I'll give the guys credit. Penalties have gotten a lot better. Like, and we didn't mention this earlier. WKU only 4 penalties for 22 yards. I can live with that. And they can talk about how it was a hostile environment, whatever. I mean, there's only 15,000 people there. That is not a hostile environment. You go back to the Rice game, 300 people there, not a hostile environment. Go back to Liberty. They had a decent crowd, but it was a monsoon the whole game. Not a hostile environment. Like, you want to see a hostile environment, you play at LSU in a few weeks. You're going to see a hostile environment.
We're going to see real quick.
So, yeah, but I did want to give them credit real quick about the penalties. I thought that has gotten better, but the turnovers they're getting worse. And I do not understand it at all.
Right. And to Coach Vince's credit, it's like, I mean, what can you do about a guy that's just running? I guess it makes you feel as if only thing you can point to is the coach, because why is this happening so much? It feels as if like
it's like, is he trying too much? Is Debo trying too hard? Which he probably is trying too hard. Like, when you get a 10, 15-yard game, just get down, or at least put 2 hands on the ball. Like, you don't have to be trying to stiff arm with another hand trying to get 2 or 3 more yards. Like, you're gonna go down. Like, I don't know.
And it's kind of like, I guess you start feeling like it's the coach, because it's like, this is his biggest flaw. Are we spending extra time drilling this into him? Like, I don't want regular practice session. I want him working on contact, like, some kind of to
right.
where it's like, wrap up the ball high and tight, like all day. He doesn't have to get
because he's got everything else down pat. Like, hey, if he can just get that shirt up. Well, that and pass pro, if you get those down, then you good.
Yeah, so you want him to, like, hey, so it's like, is this not being drilled? And that's the only thing you can think of as a fan.
Right.
Like, why is coach not sharing this problem up? Because this has been our Achilles heel. If we know it, then why are we not doing anything about it? That's right. as a fan, because we're on the outside. That's the only thing we can think of. And this is the way we've lost these games. Like, we dominate first half, come out second half flat. Something happened. It was penalties in the Rice game, and then turnovers. It was turnovers in Liberty, and then they kind of just. I felt like they just dared us to do something different, and we wouldn't. In the Liberty game, it was like we just kept on trying to do what we were doing in the first half. I'm like, hey, they figured that out. Can we do something else?
And see, this is something that I tweeted out Friday night while I was sipping my green iguana in Jamaica. This is the second road game in a row where UAB has blown a 17-7 lead. You go back to the Rice game, same situation. WKU, same situation. Like, what in the world? Like, how does that happen? Like, we've talked about all year, Darren, about, turning the page, learning from our mistakes. Like, and here we are just repeating it time and time again.
Time and time again. The same type of environment, the same, the same scenario, the same issues. And once you're this deep into it, you can't help but say it has to be something in the coaching, that's where you start to go, because what else could it be,
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't help that we largely came into this year saying this is the most stacked team we've had.
It is, yeah.
And this is the most talented team that we've had. We had these expectations, not because of hearsay, but because we've seen these guys play. Yep. We've seen what they can do. We've seen what they can do in these losses.
Yep.
But the way we lose them is, so that's where the crux of I just want to identify and articulate what are we doing? Why are we this frustrated. Sometimes you can get frustrated and you just start going into games with negative expectations or whatever, and you don't even know what you're frustrated for. But I think it's good to like take a step back and say, all right, what am I actually mad at? Let me see. But then on the other hand, you look and you say, but it was 7 points against Liberty.
Yeah.
It was what 3 points against WKU.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was 4 points against Rice. And you're like, man, if you look at it in that sense, it's kind of like, can we be that mad because we were in all of those games? It's the way we're losing the games. So now that's when I started reviewing everything and how I felt. I was like, I started feeling really conflicted. Like, how am I supposed to feel here?
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be angry and like, no, we just need a new change of regime, or do we say, hey, man, like, hold on, let's look at and see exactly what has happened. Like, we barely lost these games. Like, we were right there, and then we can say half of the problems that we lost wasn't because
Us.
a coach did something.
Right.
Debo dropped the ball. Like, I mean, a coach, you can't, if you being conservative, you say, no, I don't want to turn over, so you run the ball right, so you won't turn the ball over.
Right.
And you still turn the ball over. I mean, it's only so much a coach can do.
Right.
So, but then again, you start wondering, like, would we be in those positions if we countered right? Like, if we didn't just try to force a run, or, like, so you start going down all these things, and
yeah, it's a never-ending like trap door. Like, you just kind of go into different scenarios, and but at the end of the day, man, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just frustrating.
how do you feel, John? Like, you help me out here. Like, after
I'm
going through
extremely
all of that, after reviewing all of this, where are, like, how are we supposed to feel about everything here?
I think you have a right to feel everything that you just said, like all the things, like, and that's, but we get a sense of frustration from our listeners, whether that's through messages, Twitter reactions, Facebook reactions, YouTube reactions, DMs. We hear and feel all your frustrations because we feel it too. Like, we are extremely frustrating. It frustrated both of us heading into the season. Like you just mentioned, this is the most talented team this UAB football program has ever had, hands down. Like, hands down. And look at us, 4-3 and 2-2, and let's face it, crappy CUSA. Like, this is our last year in Conference USA. We have, just blown road leads, turned the ball over left and right on the road, and that's a recipe for disaster. You cannot win ball games turning the ball over on the road, and that's something that hopefully changes this Saturday, and UAB can finally get a road win. But I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess they're still technically not out of the Conference USA championship race with 2 losses, but honestly, it feels like it because you've got 2 teams that have got tiebreakers over you. You've got Rice that's got a tiebreaker over you. You've got a head-to-head tiebreaker. You've got WKU that's got a head-to-head. So you're going to need both of those teams to lose a couple of games on top of winning this Saturday and then beating UTSA and then beating North Texas. Like, I don't know, man. I hope they turn it around, but as of this moment, I think this year is a failure. I mean, because we're not going to compete for a Conference USA championship as of right now unless things change. Like, it's a failure, and you can say, hey, we can still make a bowl game all you want, but were our goals heading into the 2022 season saying, hey, if UAB plays in the Birmingham Bowl, that's a great season? No, it's not. We all had expectations of getting to a Conference USA championship and hopefully winning one, against UTSA, which UTSA is definitely going to be in the Conference USA championship the way things look right now. So yeah, I 100% agree with you, Darian. I am frustrated as well. It feels like you look at the Liberty game, Rice game, and WKU game, and it's also like you sat back and watched the same game 3 times, knowing damn well what was going to happen all 3 times, especially after the first 2. Like, when Zeno threw that last interception, it's like you just throw your hands up. Like, hey, I mean, you do this to yourselves. Like, it's extremely frustrating. Now, as far as like looking at the coaching staff, I agree 100% with you. Vincent cares about this program. Vincent cares about these kids. I think these kids care about Vincent and want to win for him, but so far they just haven't been able to get it done on the road, man. And I mean, I don't want us to get any further into that thick of the woods, at least not for a couple more weeks. But I don't know, man. As we sit right now, yeah, the season's a failure. Like, I mean, we still have a few more games to prove, hopefully win and get back in that Conference USA championship race. But if you told me the goal of the season was to get to a bowl game, that's a lie. That is not what Bill Clark built this program. And I get Bill Clark is not coaching this team, but I mean, those are the expectations of this UAB football program, to compete for conference championship games. And right now, we're not. We're looking like, in the WKU preview, we said, hey, this game is going to tell if UAB is a contender or a pretender. And right now, this team looks like a bunch of pretenders. I mean, let's just be real.
And that's the toughest part of it, because.
And I know people are going to hate what we're saying right now. Like, people are going to hate what we're saying, because we know we've got people that within the program that listen, and we love these guys. I mean, we see it, Darian. We see how much they care, how hard they practice. But at the end of the day, it's about results.
And that's the thing about college football. Like, especially if you're a team that has expectations. You can easily lay out, this happened, look at this, da. Then it's like, well, who won? Exactly. Who won or lost? I don't care. It can be 500 yards to a team that gained 150. Who won the game?
And look, and you sit back these last 3 road games and you look and say, there's a common denominator in why you lost all 3 of those games. Like, no, like, if it was something different each time, okay, I can get it, but you lost the same way all 3 times on the road. That's turning the ball over. Like, not acceptable.
That's what it is. And not only turning the ball over, it's the same tenor, the same kind of feel. It's this ickiness as a UAB fan you start feeling in that third quarter, when you see 2, 3 and outs, or you see that turnover happening. And then they start celebrating on their sidelines, and then somebody rips off a 46-yard run for a touchdown because the defense was tired and they've been out there for a long time and they got momentum going. And then we go back out there, and then it's like, oh, we get a first down, and then we fumble the ball on third on 3rd and 3, a play where we had the first down. It's like, here it is again, or. In this previous game, like, we had this holding call that set us back, and then we have a wide open pass from a guy that just cribbed it.
Yeah.
But then in the moment that we really need it, it's dropped. It's a pass it's a good pass that Zeno made, and it's dropped. And who knows how long he would have been running? He was wide open. You know what I'm saying? It was wide open, so it's kind of like, it's the same feel, and I don't know what causes that. Like, what is it? It's something. It's like a dark cloud that follows. But we just want to be able to meet these expectations. We want to be able to win these big games. And I guess the frustrating part is, like, we thought we were there. We beat BYU, and we came into this season with this stacked roster, and to be 14 points away, and this is where I come at, like, on that part. I'm kind of stuck on that, because, like I said, then you kind of go into context. It's like, yeah, we the same tenor and everything, but a lot of that the players did, some of those things you can't control. It's like, why are you doing that? But then when you overall looking at it, it's like, why do our players keep doing it?
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's hard to blame a coach for that. I know I was emotional, and, like, during, like, right toward the end of the game, I was like, well, this is how the BV era ends, That was like, I felt like he didn't deserve that, because it was like dropping the ball, fumbling, and turnovers and stupid passes and stuff like that. But this has been the theme of every loss. But I want to come back to that. I'm not ready to say that. I really want to see how the rest of this year plays out. Like, I know we want to be in that conference championship, and I'm quite aware that we're going to need a lot to get there. We're going to need a lot of help to get there. But I think the way that we play the rest of this season out really determines a lot. Because, like I said, I think that's where that 14 points come into play. Like, we did barely lose those games. And actually, kind of listening to the guy that Kevin from FAU, like we just did. Actually, he said something that was really, he was like, you kind of got to look for the floor. Like, everybody wants those high flying high years. I was like, man, this is a therapy session for UAB. It's like, everybody wants those high flying years, but that's not realistic. What you need to do is look for the floor. You need to look for something to where you say, okay, that's cool. Now, like, you know what? That's really a word. Right. You know, if this guy can come out and we can rip off a couple and we can beat UTSA and North Tech, like, if we can kind of win out and do our thing that way, I think we really would have to review this season in the totality, you know.
I agree. And I do want to just say real quick, you know, I just want to clarify that I said at this point of the season, it is a failure. Because I can hear Brad in my ear. I can hear Thomas in my ear. I can hear Paul, Matthew, all the guys in my ear right now. At this point, I'm saying it is a failure. We can still, and I'm glad you said that, Dan, we can turn this around and we'll revisit this at the end of the year when we have a full year sample to, you know, kind of go over. But yeah, at this point, I mean, I don't understand how you don't say it's a failure at this point. You know what I'm saying? I don't see. I don't know.
That's being real.
Yeah, it is.
That's being real. You know.
And we've always preached authenticity with this show, and we're gonna give it to you. We're not gonna be all rainbows and sunshine. We're not gonna be just all doom and gloom all the time. But we want to be real with you guys.
Yeah, and that's all we're doing. We're trying to be a bridge and an outlet for, you know, for your favorite team, but, you know, we try to be a responsible voice of the fans, but we also try to bring a perspective to where you have to feel from the coaches and the players. And, you know, you try to ball that all up in one, you know, because you get to know people on each side. And it's a unique position to be in because you're down there at the practice facilities. You're shaking hands with these people.
Yep.
You know, I know Matt McCants is he's on the staff. He's one of my closest friends. You know, and, you know, we know these guys. I know other people on that staff. Like, you look him in the eye, you go down there, you know, you support, and you don't want to say anything negative about them, but you're not really saying negative. You got to be real with the criticisms because you got to be responsible in what you say.
Exactly.
Then, you know, so it's really a unique position to be in on this platform that you've created, you know, and going down there and just seeing Coach Benson and seeing the environment that he's created. Because honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. Last year, there was a lot of dissension on that team. It was easy. It was playing out over social media. Mm-hmm. You can see it. Like, players were unhappy for whatever reason. Players were unhappy. It was this weird feel, you know, people was getting sat down and not, you know, because it was something going on the team. And I don't know if it was Coach Clark's voice that got stale, because sometimes, you know, a coach's voice can get stale and it's just time for new air. I do know that this team has a totally different feel and aura about them. You know, it's way more jubilant. You can tell it's not so much dissension. And even now, even seeing them go through this, they haven't turned coat. They are still right there supporting and wanting to win for Coach Benson. And to me, that means something.
Yeah.
I can tell you during the Neil Callaway, during the Callaway years in that locker room, man, that stuff was happening. But it was nowhere close. Everybody was like, "Hey, man, I can't wait. You can get it over with. Whatever." You know, it's just like, "Hey," or I'm trying to just impress these scouts, trying to see if I can get a chance at the pros. These dudes ain't thinking like that.
No, not at all.
So that means something, man. That really does. And that's speaking as a former player, somebody that in this same locker room, like I've been without that. Trust me, you don't want that. And so he has this unique ability of bringing players together and keeping them together. But I just want to see, which is why we just want to see him win. So at this point, it's been a failure, barely, but it has been a failure. So in this world of college football, it doesn't matter if it's 14 points or 41 points. It's a failure at this point. You know, it's wins or losses is what it is at the end of the day. Especially if you're losing the same way. It's wins or losses. You know, that's it. WK, you don't care how they won that game. They just know that they won. And you know, same with Rice and Liberty. They can hear us cry. I bet if we was to go on their podcast, they got a totally different perspective.
Right.
Of how that, like, it ain't because what we did, it's because what they did. Like, you know, so all that to say is, you know, we're a family team here. That's just what we are, and that's what we built off of. I really want to see Coach B, even at this point, because I honestly felt like if we got knocked out right now, or if we was slim to none as it is right now, I thought like, yeah, it's over. He's gonna be fired. But after looking at everything and just seeing the response from the players, I'm not ready to throw in that towel for BB yet, because he's got a unique skill of just galvanizing. And we do need to find a floor for this program. So maybe we won't be able to reach certain heights every year. And he was thrown into this as well.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe we can, our version of North Texas last year, maybe we can go on this crazy good run to end this season out and eradicate those problems that's been following us, you know, for these years since Coach Clark was the head coach. If we can eradicate these problems, and I would love to see Coach BB back, but it is certain things that we need to see. And I think that's just where we at. I think that's fair to say. I walk back some of my comments and some of my emotional, you know, I was very emotional, very mad.
Yeah.
So I walk back some of that, but I'm ready to see something from Coach Vincent.
Definitely. Well, we got another chance this Saturday as UAB travels down to Boca Raton to take on the FAU Owls. So where we
hell of a transition, man.
I was gonna say, an hour and two. Okay, so if you guys are still with us, thank you. I mean, no, the stuff, all of that needed to be said. So I'm glad we said it, and we'll just see what happens, you know, going from here. And I agree 100% with you that I do want BV to have a legit shot at getting this job. He is going to need to clean up these turnovers moving forward. But hey, we can still right the ship and have a decent year. I don't know if it'll be a great year, but we can still have a good year.
Yeah, probably can't make an A+, but maybe we can make a B+, you know.
Right. I agree. Well, speaking of a team that is very just like UAB, the FAU Owls, you know, come into this matchup Saturday night at 3-5 and 2-2 in Conference USA play. Now, lucky for them, they get to host the UAB Blazers because if they were on the road, they would probably lose this game because, like UAB, FAU has not won a road game this year. In fact, they have not won a road game dating back until October of 2021. So it's been over a year since they won a road game. So these two teams are, hey, let's face it, this is a must-win game. If whoever drops this game, you worry about the floor just breaking. You know what I'm saying? Like this could get worse, or it could get better, or it could get worse before it could get better for the loser. Like, you know, if FAU loses, they drop to 3-6. UAB loses, they go to 4-4, 2-3 in conference play with the gauntlet schedule that we just mentioned earlier upcoming for the Blazers. So hey, it's gut check time, man. You know, you've got to find a way to win on the road, and this is what I said on Twitter. This is what we've said plenty of times, Darian and I, on this podcast. find a way to win and just don't turn the freaking ball over. So if UAB can go into Boca and not turn the ball over and run it down these Owls' throats, which they can do, then I like UAB's chances coming this Saturday night. But if FAU forces some turnovers, which they are really good at doing, then UAB could be in for a long night where things could even get ugly with N'Kosi Perry at quarterback at FAU and that run game that they have. But as Darian mentioned, we did have a wonderful interview with Kevin Fielder, that is the manager of Owls247 and does a great job covering FAU, and also writes on the AAC for the Underdog Dynasty SB Nation site. We'll roll that interview in a few minutes, but I mean, it's so weird just seeing how just alike these two programs are, and they're both about to transition to a new conference together.
Yeah, man, and I think they probably had it a little worse than we have this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this one is important. Now, I think our tenor and tone changes a little bit more if we drop this one. Let's be real. So whoever drops this game, I think that patience and that grace is going to be like, all right, buddy. There's patience and this grace, and then it's like, come on, what are we doing? Like you said, with this gauntlet coming up, this is the position that we're in, and hearing Coach Bryant Vincent speak, it's a lot about moving forward and having to take the next steps and having to get better. Okay, we can keep saying that, and we can, and I believe that, but it gets to a certain point when it say, hey man, you just talking, at this point, but we're still there to where we can buy into it, honestly. And I know that's not for us to buy into, but hey man, I saw somebody say, these players, it hurts them the most. It hurts the players and coaches most. And I've never been a coach on this level, but I've been a player. And now I'm a real vested fan. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. It might hurt. Certain games hurt worse as a fan, or just as much. And I'm being real, because you're vested just as much as these players, because a lot of time you got some players that kind of just leave the program alone. They just do, they go about their life, never to care about. I'm not finna tell a fan that's been a fan of UAB for 30 years, or, however long your dad has been, your dad, John.
Right.
He's been a part of this program forever. So I'm not finna sit here and tell him that, the players, man, they hurt more. They're out there working. Well, guess what? Unless somebody just went to work. I'm not a rich guy. I'm not rich at all. I have a decent job, and I have kids. I got 3 daughters. Right. I bought season tickets just to support this program, That ain't free. That ain't cheap, You go here and you buy snacks, and you do what you can to invest in this program. And so when those losses hit, they hit you just as hard as the players. I've been on the other side of it, so I can speak on that. I can. And I'm a guy that cared a lot. I still do, just like I was a player.
Right.
So with that being said, like, something is owed to the fans. It just is. That's just the way of college football, So, guys, where do we go from here? We can't tell you.
Yeah, I mean, we're just being honest. Yeah, but we hey, a lot's riding on what happens in Boca this Saturday night. I mean, and we'll do an instant reaction Saturday night to what happens in Boca. Real quick though, I do want to mention that, as bad as this FAU team is on the road, they are pretty good at home. They're 3-1 at home. The only loss is to UCF, which Kevin in the interview mentions, this game was actually kind of close in the first half, and then UCF kind of blew it wide open in the second half. But that's a good UCF team. I think the blueprint to beating FAU is exactly what UTEP did this past week. UTEP beat FAU in El Paso 24-21, but honestly, all they did was just run right at them. They ran right at them the whole game, and they busted maybe 3 or 4 long runs, and they ended up being the game. Like, they ended up getting 234 yards rushing, but that's on 41 rushing attempts. So, I mean, they really just kind of wore down FAU that game, and look for UAB to try to do the same thing, especially if Zeno is the starting quarterback this Saturday.
And especially, and we talk about, I hate to kind of bring that up, and I don't know if he was going away from that or not, but especially with the injury they have on the other side. So
yes, no, you can go into that, yeah.
Yeah, that leading tackler is out. So, hey, he was the guy, to really help you. Yeah, they'll go into it more, but with him being out and, run it at him, and then, just keep him honest here and there with Zeno. If Zeno is the guy, now Dylan is the guy, open up that playbook. So.
Exactly, and Eddie Williams is the leading tackler for FAU, but he got hurt in the opening kickoff against UTEP. But he will be out for this game against UAB, so that is very good news for UAB because he was the run stopper. And he got hurt in the opening kickoff. I hate it for him. I hope he bounces back. But that's honestly partly why UTEP was able to run it down their throats, and they couldn't stop them, especially as the game got later on and they started busting some of those big runs. UAB's just gonna have to do that. And you look at FAU on the offensive side of the ball. Same quarterback UAB saw last year, N'Kosi Perry, senior quarterback. He's thrown for 17 touchdowns, 1,800 yards, dual threat quarterback. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns. But just speed. I mean, that's what they've always recruited well at FAU, and they always have speedsters. And you look at their wide receiver, LeJontay Webster. I mean, this guy can burn you. He's a super speedy wide receiver. He's already got 48 catches, 8 touchdowns, over 500 yards of the season. They've got really talented running backs, which, Kevin mentions in our interview, Larry McCammon, Johnny Ford, just really talented running backs. So all that being said, since we're already at an hour, over an hour, 12, Darian, do we want to go into predictions and then we'll throw on the interview? Or do you want to say anything else before we go into predictions?
Yeah, we're going to predictions. I think we done said everything. It's gonna be a really long Blazer pod, but I think the time link is gonna attract people because they're gonna want to hear everything that we have to say. Yeah,
100% agree.
Hopefully, we was able to articulate it, a lot of those feelings and do it in a rational way. We didn't want to be irrational. We didn't want to be emotional. We wanted to kind of oversee everything. And honestly, I wanted to just kind of really show like how important that relationship is, like the skill that BV possesses. I just wanted people to value that correctly. Right. And kind of review everything, looking forward and say, hey, man, let's not, I'm talking to myself too, like, let's not close the door yet on him, because of how close we haven't gotten blown out or anything like that. And we've been in every game. But, and some of this is just growing pains. And honestly, seeing the penalties, get better like they have is something that we've cried about for a lot. And that's gotten better. So the turnovers can get better too. And, and we'll just see moving forward. Let's just not close the door. Let's have an open mind and let's just see where it goes. And, it's still a chance for us to ride some momentum for the program and to be better. So with that being said, I think that, that leading tackler out, FAU's leading tacklers out. I think we're the best rushing attack in CUSA when we don't fumble the ball. I believe that Debo won't fumble the ball this game. Therefore, I believe we win the game. I would say 37-21.
Nice. So I've actually, it's the first time since we've been doing this this year. I've got to go in the other way. I've got FAU coming out on top, 31-28, and I want to see it, man. From what I've seen UAB on the road through 3 games, I can't not say they're not going to turn the ball over. And I'm just worried that if we turn the ball over a couple times, whether that's a fumble from a running back or a quarterback throwing a couple interceptions, I'm just worried about it just getting worse. I hope to goodness that I'm wrong about this prediction, but I've got it FAU 31, UAB 28.
Let me go down to 28-21 UAB because I forgot that Dylan's not playing in this game. Oh, well, yeah. I don't know.
Well, we don't know that. Yeah, but when we're recording Monday night, I got the feel he's not going to. And then that's just a precautionary. But hey, I mean, he can get cleared Friday and then be on or Thursday and be on the bus, Friday or whatever. So he can be on the plane down to Boca. So but I don't know. But as of right now, yeah, I lean more towards Zeno playing and then Lucero backing him up.
I feel like every game we kind of wanted them, every road game, we wanted to be like, okay, this is the moment they learn from. Okay, no, this is the moment they learn from. This is my last time saying that. So that's why I'm going 28-21 UAB.
Yeah.
We get on this road and we have 3 lost fumbles and 2 interceptions. I'm be like, it ain't no learning. Like, that's just who they are. Like,
right.
If people show you who they are enough times, you believe it.
And that's kind of how I am right now, Darren. I'm kind of like prove me wrong mentality. So I hope they prove me wrong and we don't have a single turnover. But from what I've seen so far on the road, I can't see it. So, but I hope your prediction's right and we get the dub, whether it's by 1 point or 28-21, like you just said. Hey, I just want us to somehow pull out a victory in Boca, right this ship. We got 2 tough games after FAU, but hey, they're in Protective Stadium, and UAB plays well at home. They have. So
this can really be a springboard.
And they need it so bad. This team needs this win so bad. Like, if they go 4-4, I'm gonna have bad feelings.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Jelly Walker. Let's talk about your Jelly Walker, Eric Gaines.
Hey, exactly. Hey, bring on basketball season. Shout out. Hey, they start November 1st, exhibition against Mississippi College. So we are getting close. And I think the first game is that next Monday the 7th against Alabama State. So I definitely can't wait to talk basketball. But hey, if they drop Saturday, we're gonna be wanting to talk basketball sooner than later.
That remind me in high school.
Oh yeah.
My best friend we was playing against this team that was notoriously poor in football, right?
Uh-huh.
But they were good in basketball. This is funny. I know this off the point, but it reminded me he was out there. He played receiver. He said the cornerback lined up on him. He said, "Hey, what's up, number 80?" He was like, "You play basketball, don't you?" Yeah, I forgot. He was like, "You number 5 or something like that." He told me, he was like, "You gonna see me on the court?" This dude had no interest. He was in the middle of the game. He had no interest in like knowing like anything. He didn't care. He knew they was gonna get blown out. He was like, it's basketball season is right around the corner. So I don't want us to feel like that. I don't want us to be in the thick of football and just be like, yeah, I can't wait to see the basketball team, So we'll see though.
Definitely. Well, all right, guys. Well, we will go ahead and roll our interview that we've had with Kevin Fiedler of Kevin Fiedler of Owls247 and Underdog Dynasty. But we will be back Saturday night to recap what happens in Boca. Go Blazers. Blazer Victory Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. And we are pleased to be joined by Kevin Fiedler this evening, the manager of Owls247 and also writes about the AAC on Underdog Dynasty. Kevin, how are you doing this evening?
Guys, I'm doing great. We finally got a little bit of cold weather down here. It's not super cold yet, but anything like under 90 degrees is perfect down here. So for the next week and a half, I'm feeling great. After that, I'll probably be miserable for another 2 months. But
Kevin, I was about to say, this is the first time I heard from somebody down south. Like, it's like, yeah, I'm glad that we got a little cold weather. Like, like I'm not used to it.
Darian, anyone who says that they love the 95-degree weather is either a liar or a masochist, because I'm entirely convinced that it's like the worst thing ever, but they just want to say that it's true because they've all moved down here and they've all signed a death wish to live down here. So, you got to lie about something, right?
Right.
There you go. Well, Kevin, you do a great job just kind of running things for Owls247 and covering FAU and also covering the AAC for Underdog Dynasty. So just thanks again for hopping on with us this evening. And guys, if you are not following Kevin on Twitter, make sure you give him a follow at the Kevin Fiedler on Twitter. Just great content. And hey, just Monday afternoon, I was able to get very good content, from Kevin that, hey, their FAU's leading tackler is going to be out for the FAU UAB game. So that is huge news for UAB. But hey, if you want to get more info on FAU, definitely give Kevin a follow. And I guess let's just go ahead and start there, Kevin. So what does that mean for FAU's defense? I mean, from the outside looking in, I know he got hurt really early on in the UTEP game. And maybe I should say his name, Eddie Williams, the linebacker, got hurt really early in the UTEP game last week. But what does this mean for the defense? Because, I mean, he's the team leader in tackles.
Yes, so every time that we've spoken to the defensive coordinator, Todd Orlando and Willie Taggart, anytime anyone's ever asked about Eddie Williams, he's the leader. He's one of the leaders of this defense. He's critical for what we want to do against the run. He's arguably FAU's best run defender outside of Evan Anderson. And the things that he can do, to go from sideline to sideline, he's not the tallest, but he's incredibly athletic and he can close down a lot of angles. It's a huge loss. I think you saw he actually went out on the opening kickoff. And so they didn't have him for any of the defensive possessions in the game. And they allowed like 230 yards rushing, and they allowed a couple of big time chunk plays because the guys that they have behind him just aren't experienced. Justice Cross and Jalen Wester. It's expected that Jalen Wester will start at that position, Coach Taggart said. But, Jalen Wester is a true freshman who hasn't gotten a ton of defensive snaps. And Justice Cross, I believe, is a second-year freshman or, maybe like a third year. He's really young. He has not got a lot of experience. This is just a team that is not deep at that position in terms of experience. I think Jalen Wester is a very talented player and he made a lot of big time plays against UTEP, but he's just not the same. He's not Eddie Williams. So losing Eddie Williams in a game like this, especially against a team like UAB, is huge, especially against the run, because that's sort of where FAU has struggled throughout the year, is sort of stopping some of these teams on when they run the football, and not having one of your best run defenders out there is a significant loss, for the Owls defense.
Yeah, and I think too, just looking at this season, Kevin, when FAU's able to stop the run and, of course, force turnovers, they do a really good job on defense. Like you look just a couple weeks ago, kind of at that, FAU Rice game, Rice coming in hot after, upsetting UAB, and FAU holds them to, 64 yards rushing and forces 3 turnovers. I mean, wow. My goodness. So, but then you look at the flip side, like you just mentioned, this past week, UTEP, giving up 230 and letting UTEP just grind it out, especially in that second half, and just kind of pull away. So, UAB fans are probably licking their chops now that guy wants to be on the field this Saturday. I hate it for him, and I hope he's able to bounce back. But I don't know. That kind of changes my whole thought process on this game.
Yeah, he was so important. He had gotten hurt in the Rice game, if I remember correctly, but he had not been, banged up to the point where, I don't believe he could play. But they were able to stop the run that game, and that's why they were able to win, because FAU has talked so much this year about wanting to turn teams into one-dimensional. Wanting them to become either pass heavy or run heavy and being able to stop that only. So, against UTEP, there was a drive where they had, it was the last drive of the game. FAU had gotten the extra point to tie the game. And look, one of the most sickos committee plays I've ever seen.
Oh, that was insane.
I still don't know how to explain what happened, but they had gotten the extra point, and there was still I think 2.5, 3 minutes left in the game. And they just drove the ball down the field by running the football, getting a couple of key passes, and they were able to take the last kick of the game to win the game. That's just sort of the problem with FAU, is they're not built to be able to withstand those kind of drives, and it's fine to not be, because I think a lot of teams in college probably aren't built to withstand, 4-minute drives, 5-minute drives, but there's been a few of them for FAU this year, and it's so critical that they need to be able to stop the running, especially against a team like UAB, where they have one of the best running backs in the conference in McBride. And so FAU needs to find a way to stop the run, and not having one of your best run defenders, especially at the linebacker position, is just a massive loss to what they want to do defensively.
Okay, Kevin. So, we're a couple conference games in now, just a couple games in period. We're in the middle of the season here, and what is your overall pulse on the team? Is it a disappointment this year, or what are FAU fans feeling about this team?
It's a disappointment. There's really no other way to put it. They haven't won on the road in over a year. They haven't. There's been a couple games this year where it felt like they could win the game. The UCF game, it was close going into halftime, and then it all sort of fell apart for FAU. And Then you look at the Ohio game and it was a 3-point loss where they had a chance to win the game on the final drive. And, you look at the Purdue game and it was a similar situation where they had a chance to win the game late and they just, they get stopped, excuse me. Then you have the UTEP game. It's like these sort of games keep happening for FAU, and it's, I think, becoming to get a little bit frustrated for everyone, players, coaches, fans. There's definitely, I think, an added sense of pressure that, suddenly these games become a little bit more must win. Coach Taggart went out when I asked him if this game against UAB is a must win. He said all of these next 4 games are must wins. And it's really true because they really don't have a lot of room for error in terms of making a bowl game. And I think they're got 3-5 right now, so they can really afford to lose maybe one more game. But you're still not guaranteed a bowl game at 6-6, so they want to be able to try and win out. And now they get to the point where it's like their toughest stretch in conference of having to play teams like UAB, Western Kentucky, even Middle Tennessee, who's looked good this year. So I think that there's so much pressure around the team now of like things need to change, or we're not going to be able to make a bowl game, and it's going to be another year of finishing short of the ultimate goal and finishing short of where you want to be as a program.
And just piggybacking off of that really quick, what do you believe? What do you attest to these disappointments y'all having in some of these games are close? What is the main thing that you would attest to this season not turning out the way fans wanted it to?
I think the biggest thing, and the biggest thing that I stress in football, and one of the biggest things I think, in my honest opinion, is like winning the middle 8. And for anyone who doesn't know what the middle 8 is, it's the last 4 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 minutes of the third quarter. And it's sort of well agreed upon that if you can win those middle 8s, you have a far better chance of winning. FAU just has not been able to. They don't finish halves well, and they don't start the second half well at all. There's been so many times this year where they sort of come out flat. They sort of struggle in the second half. They'll allow big time drives and touchdowns, and they, then on the offensive side, they're 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So, I look back to the UCF game, and it's escaped me what it was at halftime, but I believe it was like a 2 or 3 point game. It was definitely like a 1-score game, and it felt like FAU had a chance to win that game because UCF was giving them chances to score, and FAU's offense just wasn't executing, but it felt like something could change. And then you enter the second half, and UCF scores a quick touchdown. Then FAU goes 3 and out, and then they score again. So now suddenly it's a 14-point swing in the matter of minutes, and that's sort of been the problem for FAU in a lot of these losses is. When you need to try and win, which especially coming out the second half, they just have not been able to figure it out. And it seems like every week there's a new problem in terms of starting the second half, especially on the road. At home, I think they've been a little bit better, but there's just been so many problems on the road that continue to compound themselves every time they play, away from home.
Well, Kevin, kind of looking at this year's FAU team, what's the offensive philosophy this year? Is it the same as what UAB fans saw last year with just N'Kosi Perry is the main attraction on offense, or have they switched things up, like trying to get the run game involved more? Or what do you believe the Owls' offensive philosophy is for this season, or at least so far?
They want to run the football. I mean, they have 2 really good running backs this year who have really sort of separated themselves from the pack, and Larry McCammon and Zuberi Mobley. And then recently they've gotten Johnny Ford back, and offense coordinator Brent Dearman compared Johnny Ford to like Tyler Hero. He's a 6th man. He's your energy guy. He's the guy you try and give those explosive touches to. So they want to run the football. They want to be able to establish the run, open up a lot more in the passing game. And when they've been able to run the ball effectively, they've been able to win games because it opens up so much more for N'Kosi Perry. It allows the passing game to win deep, and that's sort of what they're built for. They've got so many speed guys and so many guys who could win, deep. And, you look at like LeJontay Western, Jamal Adrin, who have sort of separated themselves as the 2 leading wide receivers. They're guys who can win vertically, win down the field. And so when FAU is able to run the football, it takes the safety away from the box, and it allows them to do so much. So they want to run the football, and when they're able to run the football, they do well. When they have to start trying to throw the football a little bit more and try and, expand the offense like that, they've struggled. And I can't really pinpoint why. I've really tried to, but I think it's just like an execution thing where they're just not executing when they have to throw the football a little bit more. And so those problems continue to compound themselves. It's been a problem since really like week 2 of the year. And so, hopefully they've sort of figured themselves out, because this team has been so close to winning a lot of these games on the road. And it's like a couple one-score games go a different way, and you're now looking at a team that's competing for the Conference USA championship game, but they haven't gone the other way. So you're looking at a team who's fighting for a chance at a bowl game. So,
Kevin, right now, I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of feel like UAB and FAU are trauma twins.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that we are 14 points away from being undefeated. That is very, very tough pill to swallow. But a lot of the problems that you've stated, the middle 8, that's one of those things. And, that's kind of not clicking all the way on the passing game. So I just want you to know, I really didn't have a question. I just wanted you to know that I empathize with you, and it's gonna be okay.
Maybe I think that UCF and FAU and UAB may just be like that Spider-Man pointing meme, and they're just pointing at each other
right?
With all the same problems. Because I've watched a couple of UAB games, and there have been points where I've visibly gone, "Am I just watching an FAU game?" Because it's some of the same problems on both sides of the ball sort of exist for both teams, and it's sort of funny how they're in very similar situations, and may be in similar situations throughout the year. So, I guess worst case, we can always just enjoy, watching the same team play on offense and defense.
I mean, you guys are 100% right. Like, I haven't watched a lot of FAU film, but kind of watching that whole UTEP game and most of a couple of the UCF game, but like especially the UTEP game, you look at FAU's like kind of dominating on offense, and then they'll have a head scratching like fumble, like scoop, and UTEP will run it back like 50 yards, and it's like, man, UAB is in the same boat, like especially on the road. Like you Debo will bust out, Dwayne McBride will bust this big run wide open, and then he'll just get 30 yards downfield and forget he has to put both hands on the ball, and then they'll strip it and run it back the other way. It's like head scratching. Like, what is going on? So yeah, we definitely feel you.
There have been a few turnovers for FAU this year. John, you mentioned that you watched the UTEP game, that fumble by Costa Perry in the red zone, where it's just sort of like, what are you doing? And there's been a few this year where you're just like, here we go again. I think it's like the sense among FAU fans of like, crap, it's happening again. This script is played out so much that I think a lot of FAU fans are almost nauseated by like seeing some of these turnovers happen when they do, and they're backbreaking turnovers. You can't have turnovers in the red zone because
Right.
you always want to get points from the red zone, ideally touchdowns, but still getting 3 when you can is important, and that may have been the difference against UTEP. Is you get that field goal there. Now you're looking at a completely different complexity to the game, but those turnovers you got to find a way to avoid, because for FAU they've been backbreakers.
And Kevin, I'm glad you mentioned the red zone. So like looking at FAU's defense, honestly, I mean, they look like a good defense overall, but it looks like they are struggling when teams are able to get in the red zone. Like what? And this ain't even just like scoring most of the time. This is putting touchdowns in the end zone. Like what do you attest that to on the defense? Like, is it just they kind of give up when the team takes it down to the end zone, or what do you think happens?
I think it's just they're just not really built like that. I think that they're like, some teams are built to be really good in the red zone. Other teams are built to fly to the football and make plays. FAU wants to be a really aggressive team defensively. They want to send pressure. They want to put their cornerbacks on islands. That's what Todd Orlando is as a defensive coordinator. It's what he was at USC, at Texas, and FAU just doesn't really have the guys for that. So when they try and get aggressive, they're leaving these cornerbacks on islands. They bite. They get beat. It's just sort of been the same problem throughout the year of like, when teams get to the red zone, FAU's not built, I think, in my opinion, not built to go, hard hat on hard hat. Let's put big guy against big guy and win. Like, I don't think that's what FAU is. And so they really have to be a team that's able to get stops before that point, or ideally you get them into situations where they have to throw the football and you can create a turnover, because that's where FAU can really win, is if they can create the turnovers. They're a team that's so good, at doing so at times. And it's just a matter of like, you got to create the turnovers, and turnover is obviously a luck thing at times, but
they shouldn't have any problem this Saturday. They shouldn't have any problem.
So,
Uh,
so Kevin, just real quick, just like overall program direction. I feel like during the era of the Lane train, it feels like there was a big party, like that was a big 70s party where it was like, drugs and everybody was riding high, just like the 70s. And then reality, here we are, Lane is not here, and FAU is in this precarious position right now. Where do you see the program heading, and what's your fears?
I think it's like you go to the AAC, you want to be a successful team in the AAC. Like it's not a thing where you want to go to the AAC and to not take a shot at any team in particular. You don't want to be current day USF. You don't want to be current day Temple.
mhm.
You don't want to be in those situations, and I'm sure that USF fans and Temple fans are not going to be my mentions if they're listening to this. But you don't want to be those kind of teams. You want to be a team that's successful in the AAC. And so I think you need to figure out some of these problems and figure out what the direction of the program is from there. But I always say, I think that the Lane Kiffin years at FAU were very successful. Obviously, you win 2 Conference USA championships, you win 2 Boca Bowls, you do everything you need to do as a program. That's not sustainable. There aren't many group of 5 teams that can be that good for a long time. I mean, you look
Right.
at across college football, how many teams are that successful for over 6-7 years? It's like Boise State. It's current day UCF is probably in that situation, but there aren't many teams that are that good for so long. So fans obviously want FAU to be in that spot, and fans would love for FAU to be that good consistently, but that's also not realistic. But you still need to be a team, especially if you're FAU, where you're in this big recruiting hotbed, and 5 minutes down the road, there's a high school that produces D1 kids every year, and it's like they're feeding these kids something, because I swear to God, they're all really athletic. But you have to be a team that constantly is making bowl games and winning bowl games. Like, you have to find the floor. The floor has got to be built for FAU, I think, is, you have got to find a way to right the ship a little bit, in the sense of, like, it's not make a bowl game or win 10 games. Like, you have to find those years where you win 7-8 games and you're just a respectable team, because that's fine. Being a group of 5 team that's consistently in a bowl game and consistently being a respectable program, and you get a couple of big time program wins for FAU, and FAU's still looking for that big time program win. Haven't been able to beat UCF. They haven't been able to beat a Power 5 team for 12 years or whatever. FAU's still looking for that. And I think that that's sort of the biggest thing in the future, is finding that floor, finding that middle ground of, like, we're going to be a 7-8 win team. Some years we're going to find a way to win 10 games, and that's just going to be what we are. And because that's fine. I think that, like, everyone wants to be the team that's riding high all the time. Everyone wants to be UCF. That's why everyone says, like, that's why you ask any AD, they're all like, oh, well, we want to be UCF. We want to have the same blueprint as UCF. That's not sustainable. Like, that's just not possible. Like, UCF caught fire and they were able to build something. That doesn't mean that every group of 5 program could be that. And FAU needs to find the years where they're 7-5, 8-4, and they make bowl games and they win those bowl games, because I think that'll be the biggest thing for FAU, is trying to find those years, because that's where programs sort of become a little bit more sustainable.
Oh, that was a really, really good answer.
Yeah,
I get asked
too.
that question a lot. And it's like, I would love for FAU to be in the Lane Kiffin years where they're 10-2 and you've got a toy train running around the campus. But guys, Lane Kiffin's not there anymore. You can't clone Lane Kiffin.
Right.
As much as Lane Kiffin probably would love to be cloned, but
Right. Well, Kevin, what's the FAU fan base's overall thoughts on Willie Taggart right now? I mean, I know, like, this year, I mean, there's still time to right the ship and get it, going in the right direction and hopefully get to a bowl game. But I mean, with Charlotte making the change, and I'm pretty sure you wrote about that on Underdog Dynasty, but with Charlotte making the change with Will Healy, is that just kind of added pressure for Taggart? And if he doesn't make it to a bowl game, maybe FAU decides to go another direction as well heading into the AAC?
Yeah, I don't want to speculate as to, like, what is going to happen at the end of the year, because there is still 5 games left, and there's still so many things can change in 5 games. We see this all the time, but I think that there needs to be wins. There needs to be results on the field, because college football is a results-driven industry. across the board, you have to have results. There are very, very few teams that are content with being mediocre. There are very few programs that are content with being mediocre, and those are the programs that everyone jokes about. The programs that are not content with being mediocre are the ones who make the coaching changes, who are the ones who try and swing for fences. And I think FAU is in that spot. And so, there's pressure, definitely. I asked Willie Taggart today if he feels like there's an added sense of pressure, and he said that, there's pressure every week for what we want to be, and he's constantly said that they want to be a championship caliber program. They want to go back to what they were, under Lane Kiffin. And so, if you want to be that, you got to win games.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be a championship program if you go 6-6, 7-5 every year. I think that this year there should definitely be a bowl game. Those were the expectations going into the year, and those expectations don't change. They haven't been decimated by injuries to the point where those expectations can change. So I'm not going to speculate for the future, but I think that there definitely needs to be wins on the field, and there needs to be results, because that's what college football is. It's not a what have you done for me 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It's what have you done for me in the last few years? And right now it just FAU has not been to that point, and something has to change.
Right.
Well, I just got one more question. So Kevin, what does UAB need to do this Saturday to get its first road win of the season? And also, what does FAU need to not allow UAB to do to help FAU get another home win?
Holy crap, these programs are just the same thing, right?
They are, yeah. I mean, UAB has not won on the road all year, and FAU hadn't either, yeah. So
yeah, this has been a big therapy session. That's all. So.
I'm greatly concerned. I'm greatly concerned that Conference USA and Healthy American are going to have two teams that are just clones in different states. But I think that the biggest thing for UAB is you got to get pressure on Nkosi Perry. That's what UTEP was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to get pressure on the quarterback, and they were able to create some plays where Kosi just had to sort of process things very quickly and try and get plays. And the other thing is, if you can stop the run for FAU, you're going to win the game, because FAU is an offense that's built on running the football, and so many teams haven't been able to stop their running game because they're really deep at that position. They've got like 3 running backs who are incredibly talented. So if you can do that on the offensive side of the ball, you're going to beat FAU most of the time, and you're going to be able to hold FAU to lower scoring totals. When UAB is on the field, I don't know why I keep wanting to say UCF, but when UAB is on offense and FAU's defense is on the field, is if you can get chunk plays, if you can get a couple of explosive plays and put FAU on their heels, that's where FAU sort of struggles. The game really changed for UTEP when they got a 77 or something yard run by Deion Hawkins, and that's sort of where everything changed. The whole complexity of the game changes. That's happened so many times this year, of like big time chunk plays is where FAU sort of get beat. So if you can find those chunk plays, UAB will have a good chance to win the game. For FAU, I think it starts with trying to stop Dwayne McBride. I'm going to keep saying he's probably the best running back in Conference USA. He's one of the best running backs in the group of 5, and the things that he can do on the field are incredible. So if FAU can find ways to stop him, or probably the better word is neutralize him, because I don't think you could truly stop him, but if you can find ways to neutralize him and allow whoever the quarterback is to throw, because I know that your quarterback's in concussion protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're running with for that? So,
yeah, he's day to day right now. If you're asking me, but Monday night, October 24th, I think Zeno gets to start Saturday. Yeah,
so Zeno is fine. Like, I don't think he's bad. I don't think Zeno's bad, but he's not good. He's just like okay. He's okay.
Yeah.
I think he's like definitely a guy who could run the offense. So if you sort of want to try to turn that offense into, let Zeno beat you, or let the starting quarterback's name is escaped me. I don't know why. Is it Hopkins?
Dylan Hopkins, yeah.
Hopkins. So like you want to try and get the quarterback to throw the football a little bit more. And that's where FAU has been really good, is if when they can turn teams one-dimensional, they're able to keep games close. They're able to win these games. So that's going to be the biggest thing for FAU. For FAU's offense, it's just running the football, finishing in the red zone, avoiding the stupid mistakes. Like I just sound like every head coach in the nation right now. Like, we just need to do what every good team does. But like, it's really what it is. It's limiting mistakes for FAU, because they've been so close to winning so many of these games, but they're not winning them. And it's just because they make a couple of back-breaking mistakes. And games can be won or lost on 3 or 4 plays, and for you, they're currently being lost on like 3 or 4 plays.
Yeah, so what I'm gathering from that is if y'all get us to fumble the ball, you guys will win, because it ain't really, nobody has stopped the running game, but the running game has been, how can we put it, John? We can gain 200 yards rushing, but what's the use of getting 99 yards down the field all running plays if you fumble on the one or something like that? So it's kind of like, yeah, all the numbers look good sometimes, it make you feel good, like, oh man, look at us, we're so unbeatable. And then it's like, oh well, we just fumbled, that's okay, we're gonna get another chance and we do it again. So if you guys,
they really are just FAU.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's the same thing. So I'm curious to see how both teams will respond to coming up short in those certain areas. I'm really curious about this one.
Yeah, I think the unique part of this game is like it feels like both programs are in similar situations right now, and it's like one team needs to find a win, one team needs to find something.
Right.
Like UAB has been able to sneak out some of these wins, and they've been really close in a couple of these other games, like the Rice game, the Western Kentucky game. But it feels like both teams are sort of in the same position of like, dude, we just really need something to go our way at some point. And I think that's really unique in the sense of like both teams coming off big road losses to teams who we all think are at least okay. Like UTEP, I don't think is as bad as they've been this year, and Western Kentucky is obviously Western Kentucky, but it feels like both these teams are just in desperate need of a win and desperate need of something to go their way. So it's going to be interesting to see, push comes to shove, which team is getting their way, on Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I agree. Well, Kevin, thank you again. Guys, if you are not following Kevin on Twitter, definitely give him a follow at @KevinFiedler and check out his work at Owls247 and on Underdog Dynasty. But Darian, you want to go ahead and send us out?
Blazer Nation, let's ride.